The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. Like some people are, you know, they unwind in different ways, either by going out drinking or that. I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed,
How
and I
about
enjoyed doing it. It was
that?
it was only twice a month that I did it.
Yeah, this was not used then for a lure to draw kids to you as the.
No, we would visit different hospitals and entertain the children there. And we didn't entertain them with handcuffs or anything like that. All we used was balloon animals and small toys and stuff like that. But we also did parades. And in the summertime, like on 4th of July, I used to be in 4 parades in one day. I've always told people when I got into clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. It was fun being a clown because you could be yourself, or just let yourself go and act a fool. You could be slapstick and funny and have a good time. That's why I always enjoyed clowning. Clowning has taken a bad name because of what they've used in my case.
The story of John Wayne Gacy. How do you bury 33 bodies beneath your own house and still host neighborhood barbecues? How does a smiling businessman become one of the most terrifying predators in American history? This is the story of John Wayne Gacy, the man who hid horror under floorboards while the world saw a clown. Chicago, 1970s. Suburban streets, trimmed lawns, children riding bikes before sunset. The kind of neighborhood where doors were rarely locked, where trust was automatic, where evil should not have existed. But inside a modest house on Summerdale Avenue, something rotten was slowly taking root beneath the floor. Gacy was not a drifter, not a shadow lurking in alleyways. He was a contractor, a business owner, a political volunteer. He shook hands with officials and attended community events. He laughed loudly, confidently. People described him as ambitious, energetic, even generous. And then there was Pogo the Clown. At children's parties and charity events, he painted his face white, drew exaggerated red lips, and performed magic tricks. Parents invited him into their homes. They trusted the man behind the makeup. They never imagined what that same man did after dark. Behind the performance was a hunger for control. Gacy craved domination. He needed to feel powerful. That need would soon twist into something monstrous. His victims were often young men or teenage boys, lured with promises of work or money. He knew how to disarm them. He offered jobs in his contracting company. He invited them for a drink. He acted like a mentor, a friendly adult, the kind of man a struggling teen might trust without hesitation. Once inside his home, the mask slipped. What began as conversation turned into manipulation. Gacy would demonstrate a magic trick with handcuffs, snapping them onto a wrist and smiling as he claimed he knew how to escape. But the trick was never meant to be reversed. Once the metal clicked shut, the balance of power shifted completely. Panic replaced trust. The room grew smaller, the air heavier. What followed was violence driven by domination. He beat his victims. He restrained them. He made them understand that they were no longer in control. The brutality was deliberate, prolonged, and calculated. Many were strangled, some fought desperately, some begged. The house absorbed their fear. The walls heard everything. Outside, neighbors slept peacefully, unaware that terror was unfolding just feet away. After the killings, Gacy did not panic. He did not flee. He dragged the bodies into the crawl space beneath his house. a narrow, suffocating chamber of dirt and darkness. He dug shallow graves in the earth under his foundation. One by one, the bodies were laid side by side. The space grew crowded. The smell grew worse. Still, he continued, when the crawl space filled, he adapted. Some victims were dumped in rivers, disposed of like garbage, evidence washed away in cold water. And then he would return upstairs, clean himself, change clothes, resume life, attend meetings, laugh at jokes, shake hands with neighbors who had no idea what lay beneath their feet. Between 1972 and 1978, young men began disappearing across the Chicago area. Runaways, some said, drifters, boys who would probably come back. But families knew better. Mothers reported sons missing. Fathers searched streets late into the night. Faces appeared on posters. Questions echoed through police stations. Still, Gacy blended in. He had no criminal profile that screamed serial killer. He looked stable, employed, social. The monster wore a convincing disguise. Then came December 1978. 15-year-old Robert Pius vanished after telling his mother he was speaking to a contractor about a job opportunity. He never came home. That detail changed everything. This was no longer a runaway. This was a child. Investigators traced the last known contact back to Gacy. Police visited his home. He was calm, cooperative, smiling. But something felt wrong. Officers noticed a strange odor inside the house. Sweet, rotting, unnatural. Gacy blamed it on sewage issues, plumbing problems. He had excuses ready, always prepared, always composed. Police began surveillance. They followed him, watched his movements, noticed inconsistencies in his stories. As pressure mounted, cracks formed in his confidence. The charming facade started to flicker. He drank more, slept less. Finally, armed with a search warrant, investigators entered the house with purpose. They moved furniture, pulled back rugs, opened doors that had remained closed for years. Then they opened the crawl space. The smell hit first, thick, overpowering. Officers crawled into the narrow darkness with flashlights cutting through dust. What they uncovered was beyond imagination. Human remains buried in layers beneath the foundation. Body after body. The count kept rising. 10, 15, 20. The number refused to stop. In total, 29 victims were found beneath the house. Others were recovered from nearby rivers. The nation watched in horror. How had this gone unnoticed for so long? How could such evil exist behind a suburban front door? Confronted with evidence, Gacy eventually confessed. He described the killings with disturbing detachment. As if recalling business transactions, he claimed he had another self, a dark passenger inside him. But there was no split personality in court, only accountability. During trial, survivors and families faced him. He showed little visible remorse. Sometimes he even smirked. Psychiatrists examined him. Lawyers argued insanity. But the jury saw calculation, not madness. In 1980, he was convicted of 33 murders, one of the highest confirmed body counts in American history. He was sentenced to death. For 14 years, he sat on death row. He painted disturbing clown portraits. He gave interviews. He maintained that he was misunderstood. On May 10, 1994, he was executed by lethal injection. His final words reportedly dismissed the gravity of everything he had done. But execution did not erase what happened beneath that house. It did not bring back the sons who never returned home. The Summerdale property was eventually demolished, the crawl space removed, the physical horror erased from sight. Yet the story remains, a warning carved into true crime history. Evil does not always look like a monster. Sometimes it wears a suit, sometimes it paints on a smile. Sometimes it performs at children's parties before driving home to darkness. 33 lives, 33 stolen futures, buried beneath floorboards while the world kept spinning. If you want more real cases told without filters, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because sometimes the scariest stories are not fiction, they're history.